So that should be interesting. That should be quite interesting how this will taste.
Okay. Hi everyone. Do you feel like, have you not seen me in a long time? I feel like I haven't seen you all in a long time. Let me know if you have that same feeling too, mainly because I haven't uploaded in a little bit. So yeah, I've been filming some really interesting things. I'd love to share that with you. So maybe we'll do like a year in review afterwards. But yeah, I always feel quite guilty when I haven't uploaded in a while. And the scary thing is when you haven't uploaded in a while, your body is like, don't really need to upload, which is really scary too. So today we are making Taiwanese 卤肉饭. 卤肉饭 is, if you were to ask me what was some of like the main known dishes in Taiwan, this one would be one of them, and it is a braised pork over rice. It's a braised pork dish, and its signature is that it more or less uses very fatty cuts, kind of like pork belly cuts of pork, and you cut it up, but because of the braising, it also melts that fat that you would have originally to begin with. And so you get this really, sometimes it's like a little bit gelatinous, but it's also very like creamy and rich, kind of like braised pork sauce thing over your rice. And it's delicious because the flavoring ingredients are usually, it's kind of like a 5-spice. It's a lot of these warming spices with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of soy sauce, you have some ginger in there, and it's just like, you cook it for a long time, everything gets soft, everything gets really, really nice. So that was in our past life. In this, plant-based life, I'm going to be working with the Datong rice cooker yet again, the electric steamer rice cooker. If you don't have one of those, you just use your normal pots and pans. So very, very easy to do. If you're still interested in the rice cooker, discount code down below until I think it's like March or something. So it's great. So when I was playing around with this recipe, so this recipe originally is from the Datong cookbook. I think it's like their family recipe for Taiwanese 卤肉饭. Is I always had the idea of using this to kind of mimic the fat. If you remember, we did probably like a new ingredient Monday or something on peach gum. On peach gum. Sorry, voice is closing up. So this is peach gum, and when you buy it, it's dry because it's like rocky, but this is actually resin. It's like resin from a tree. There's no, I don't find that there's a flavor to this at all. It's more or less kind of like jello-y, but it starts off hard like this, and then when you soak it overnight, this blooms gigantically. It's not double in size. I would say like this probably goes like 5-6 times its size. So for a dish like this, I would grab no more than like 1 teaspoon of this. Okay, 1 small teaspoon of this, it will bloom, it will get huge, but you do need to soak it overnight, make sure that it has time to kind of absorb that liquid. And then what's brilliant about this ingredient is when we did it for New Ingredient Monday, when I was showcasing it to you all, usually I've had this in like soups or more like sweet style things, because it's like, it does kind of taste like gelatinous. It does kind of taste a little fatty in that way. And so it's supposedly, like really good for skin because it like feels like very gelatiny, but it's just like tree resin. Initially, when you first finish soaking this and you kind of like, you might want to like a little taste of it or like just feeling the texture, it kind of feels like a little bit gelatiny, and it has like a little bit of a bite to it. It's just like, I feel like it's like a harder agar bite, okay? After you braise it another magical thing happens in that it kind of like melts too. And it is the perfect substitute for something like an animal fat that like you have to, like if you ever have a dish that requires like, it's like minced meat, but then like little pieces of fat in it too, or like you're making like a vegan pork belly, which we've done before with like starch. That was really good, but I think that this one's gonna be it's very good. It was a substitute that I was surprised about because the recipe turned out really, really good. So yeah, we're gonna just make it now. There's gonna be a taste test at the end. I don't know, is this a habit that we're doing? There's gonna be a taste test at the end. So wait until the end, and yeah, hopefully I come back. Okay, all right, bye.
Okay, so this is the next day. Can you see that? We had, maybe it wasn't 1 teaspoon, maybe it was like 1 tablespoon, but we only had a couple pieces. And then now I feel like, this is more than half cup, I feel. But they just bloom up. And they do have a lot of like the little twigs and tree bits in there too, so you can just if there's any big pieces, just kind of like take them out, but if they're kind of like very much in there, don't worry about it. It's just leaves.
So I'm gonna put the ingredients down in the description box, but I have some shallots, some ginger, and some garlic, along with some shiitake mushrooms that I'm just going to fry up a little bit in a dry pan, but because I'm using an induction stove, I'm going to just put in some water every now and then in case if it gets too dry. So this is just for 2 to 3 minutes, just to toast up all of the spices, get some of the water out of the shiitake mushrooms. So next, I put in a couple pieces of a 5-spice tofu, or you can use a firm smoked tofu. That would be really nice as well, just to kind of mimic the pork belly. And then I put in the last piece was a little bit of cane sugar. And definitely you can totally substitute it for date sugar or like just dates as well, like ground up dates. This was my first time making the recipe, so I just opted to, put in the sugar, but definitely substitute for dates. I have some Shaoxing rice wine as well as some soy sauce as well. Shaoxing rice wine, if you don't want to put that in, just substitute for some water, possibly grape juice, but you can kind of play around with the sugar levels afterwards. So next, I put in a tablespoon of miso, even though we had already put in the soy sauce. And the reason is I was looking for more of a whole food plant-based way to make the dish salty, but just not have it be all soy sauce, because that can be very heavy with salt. And with miso, it kind of blunts that effect because miso has the whole soybeans ground right in. And then that last ingredient that I added was also a tablespoon of peanut butter. And that was kind of like a secret ingredient in the Da Tong cookbook. It just makes everything a lot more rich, a lot more creamy. And then finally that peach gum, which I had just broken down into some smaller pieces. You can just vaguely chop it up with a knife. And this process, we're really only cooking it for about 5 minutes just to get kind of all of the flavors and the heat going. Because what I'm going to do then is to just put it into the rice cooker and the electric cooker, and then most of the braising and the heat and getting everything nice and soft, that's going to be done there. guess you want to probably try it for flavor and for salt, but it's going to stew with this spice bag as well. So we're going to take 2 of these rice cups and we're going to put it on the outside of the steamer. Gosh, let me quickly tell you what was in that spice bag. Star anise, tangerine peels, bay leaf, Sichuan peppercorn, cinnamon stick. And the tangerine peel, if you've never had kind of like a Chinese tangerine peel, it's dried, but it functions a little bit like adding lemon or like citric acid to something. It really picks up a braise, because sometimes braises have a tendency to be a little bit more like earthy or one note, just because you're stewing everything in the same sauce and everything is the same. But having that little bit of like acid in there really peps things up, really picks up the flavor without you necessarily being like, oh, this tastes like tangerine or this tastes like lemon. And the good thing with tangerine peels, because it's dry, it's not as sharp. The acid is not as sharp. So it functions very much as like a very nice kind of mellow medicinal semi-citric flavor in this.
Smells really good because of our spice packet, but if you move this, it is very, like, that tofu was quite firm before. It is very, very soft. Unless like all of the peach gum has like really melted in. So that's that should be interesting. That should be quite interesting how this will taste.
Okay, let's try a little bit of the tofu first, just to see how it's taking on flavor. It's taken on a lot of the like the 5 spice and the sweet kind of sugar and also like the soy sauce flavor. Okay. So now try this. So this has some of the chopped mushrooms, but also the peach gum in it, along with, you know, the rest of the flavors. So oh, that tastes fatty. That tastes really good. Tastes weird, but it's weird because I know what it is. But it's really rich. Like, it is very reminiscent of like a luro femme with not so much this for pork belly or for meat, because this is just very firm tofu, but for this part, kind of that melty fat. I know it's probably very disgusting for some vegetarians who are watching, but just as a mimic, because when the peach gum is stewed, it kind of has this like, you know, originally it's kind of like jelly-esque. It has like a little bit of a crunch to it. It's jelly-esque before you cook it. But when you stew it, it becomes like melty, soft jelly fat. But because if you remember, or like if you know how this, you know, Taiwanese stewed pork rice tastes like, it is very much like that fatty bit that has like kind of melted and gelatinized. It is very similar. Yeah, I left these pieces of tofu a little bit bigger because I kind of wanted it to be like pork belly, but actually I think next time, it's because they are so big, but they are still quite firm because it's firm tofu. It's only been, you know, stewing for, you know, 40 minutes or so. I'd just like to kind of cut them up into still sizable chunks, but actually small chunks I think would
really work in this. Kind of have it be very similar in size to the mushroom. And then, yeah, this is really good. This is really good.